Now, there are others who would argue that we shouldn't renew Section 203's protection of language minorities. These arguments have been tied to debates over immigration, and they tend to muddle a non-controversial issue. Protecting the right to vote with one of today's most contentious debates. But let's remember, you can't request language assistance if you're not a voter. And you can't be a voter if you are not a citizen. And while voters, as citizens, must be proficient in English, many are simply more confident that they can. Cast ballots printed in their native languages without making errors. It's not an unreasonable assumption. A representative of the Southwestern Voter Registration Project is quoted as saying, quote, "Citizens who prefer Spanish registration cards do so because they feel more connected to the process. They also feel they trust the process more when they fully understand it." Point 2. These sentiments, connection to and trust in our democratic process, are exactly what we want from our voting rights legislation. Our challenges, of course, don't end at reauthorizing the Voting Rights Act. We have to prevent the problems we've seen in recent elections from happening again. We've seen political operatives purge voters from registration rolls for no legitimate reason. Prevent eligible ex-felons from casting ballots, distribute polling equipment unevenly. And deceive voters about the time, location, and rules of elections. And unfortunately, these efforts have been directed primarily at minority voters, the disabled. Low-income individuals, and other historically disenfranchised groups. The Help America Vote Act, or HAVA, was a big step in the right direction. But we've got to do more. We need to fully fund HAVA if we're going to move. Forward in the next stage of securing the right to vote for every citizen. We need to enforce critical requirements like statewide registration databases. We need to make sure polling equipment is distributed equitably and equipment actually works. And we need to work on getting more people to the polls on election day. We need to make sure that minority voters are not the subject of some deplorable intimidation tactics when they do go to the polls. You know, in 2004 Native American voters in South Dakota were confronted by men posing as law enforcement. These hired intimidators joked about jail time for ballot missteps. And followed voters to their cars to record their license plates. In Lake County, Ohio, some voters received a memo on bogus Board of Elections letterhead. Informing voters who registered through Democratic and NAACP drives that they could not vote. Three. In Wisconsin, a flyer purporting to be from the Milwaukee Black Voters League was circulated in predominantly African American neighborhoods with the following message. If you've already voted in any election this year, you can't vote in the presidential election. If you violate any of these laws, you can get 10 years in prison and your children will get taken away from you for Now, think about that. We've got a lot more work to do. This occasion is a cause for celebration. But it's also an opportunity to renew our commitment to voting rights. As Congressman Lewis said last week, it's clear that we've come a great distance. But we still have a great distance to go. Five, 6 Now, the memory of Selma still lives on in the spirit of the Voting Rights Act. Since that day, the Voting Rights Act has been a critical tool in ensuring that all Americans not only have the right to vote but have the right to have their vote counted. And those of us concerned about protecting those rights can't afford to sit on our laurels upon reauthorization of this bill. We need to take advantage of this rare united front and continue to fight to ensure unimpeded access to the polls of all Americans. In other words, we need to take the spirit that existed on that bridge. And we have to spread it across this country. You know, 2 weeks after the first march was turned back, Dr. King spoke, and he told a gathering of organizers and activists and community members. He said that they should not despair because the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. That's because of the work that each of us do that it bends toward justice. It's because of people like John Lewis and Fannie Lou Hamer and Coretta Scott King and Rosa Parks all. The giants upon whose shoulders we stand, that we are beneficiaries of that arc bending toward justice. That's why I stand here today. I would not be in the United States Senate had it not been for the efforts and courage of so many parents and grandparents and ordinary people who were willing to reach up and bend that arc in the direction of justice. I hope we continue to see that spirit live on, not just during this debate but throughout all our work here in the Senate. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor. One Colin Powell, 2001 to 2005, and Condoleezza Rice, 2005 to 2009, served as as Secretaries of State, the nation's top diplomatic post. Two quotation source, Landa, v. October 18, 2005. Hearing before the Subcommittee on the Constitution of the Committee on the Judiciary, House of Representatives, via Google Books. Three quotation, near verbatim, source, Becker, J. And Finkel, D., October 31, 2004. Now they're registered, now they're not. Washington Post. PA 22. For quotation source, Becker, J. And Finkel, D., October 31, 2004. Now they're registered, now they're not. Washington Post. PA 22. Five possible quotation source, on May 4, 2006. Representative Mel Watt, D. North Carolina, read a prepared statement on behalf of Rep. John Lewis, D. Georgia, who was tending to a prior committee assignment. That statement in full reads, "The Voting Rights Act was necessary in 1965, and unfortunately it is still necessary today, as the extensive committee record makes clear." We have come a great distance, but we still have a great distance to go before all Americans have free and equal access to the ballot box. This legislation is among the most important that this Congress will consider. And I trust that we will take our responsibility to protect the voting rights of all Americans very seriously as we pass this legislation. We must renew the expiring sections of the voting rights. Act in this session of Congress. Thank you, emphasis added. Six possible quotation source, on July 13, 2006, a week before Senator Obama's address above. Representative John Lewis passionately delivered a speech from the floor of the House of Representatives. Video recording of that statement is available here at C-SPAN, BEG at 317. A transcript is available on Mr. Lewis government website here. Barack Obama. Senate floor speech in support of the Wall Street bailout bill. Delivered October 1, 2008. Thank you very much, Madam President. And thank you to the distinguished senator from Connecticut not only for yielding time, but also for the extraordinarily hard work that he's put in over the last several days and, in fact, over a week. And I want to thank his counterparts on the other side, including Senator Gregg, for their hard work. Now, the fact that we're even here voting on a plan to rescue our economy from the greed and irresponsibility of Wall Street and some in Washington is an outrage. It's an outrage to every American who works hard, pays their taxes. Is doing their best every day to make a better life for themselves and their families. And understandably, people are frustrated and they're angry that Wall Street's mistakes have put their tax dollars at risk. And they should be. I'm frustrated and angry, too. But while there's plenty of blame to go around and many in Washington and Wall Street who deserve it, all of us have a responsibility to solve this crisis. Because it affects the financial well-being of every single American. There will be time to punish those who set this fire, but now is not the time to argue about how it got set. Or did the neighbor sleep in his bed, or leave the stove on? Right now we want to put out that fire, and now's the time for us to come together and do that. When the House of Representatives failed to act on Monday, we saw the single largest decline in the stock market in 2 decades. Over $1 trillion of wealth was lost by the time the markets closed. And it wasn't just the wealth of a few CEOs or Wall Street executives. The 401(k)s and retirement accounts of millions became smaller. The state pension funds of teachers and government employees lost billions upon billions of dollars. Hard-working Americans who invested their nest egg to watch it grow saw it diminish and in some cases disappear.